Alright, guys, I'm back, and I'm going to show you a little bit about 2D arrays. I'll be talking about this in class today, but I did want to make a video so that you would have this to reference. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, and it could be 2D arrays, right? The issue is NetBeans doesn't like that, so you've got to spell out 2. It does not like having an integer in the name of a project. So if I did do that, it would actually name my main method as main.java instead of 2D arrays like I would like. So I'm going to get rid of all this extra stuff real quick. I'm going to leave that I'm the author. I'm not doing Java docs, so get rid of that. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you with 2D arrays, they're built into the Java API, so we don't have to import anything to use them. So what we need to do is actually, let's just declare a 2D array, and we're just going to do it as normal. So if you remember how we did a regular array, so let's just call this array 1. This is how we did a 1D array. Alright, so give it a dimension. This is how we did a 1D array. To do a 2D array, all you do is add a second bracket to let it know that it's going to have 2 dimensions. Okay, so our dimensions here, array 1, I'm saying, oh, it's going to be 2D because we have double brackets. And this is going to be called rows and columns. So the way you can think about this is when I have the new int, this will be my rows, this will be the columns in my 2D array. So if you've taken a high-level math course, you're familiar with matrices. And that's basically what we're building, is a matrix that's 4 by 3. Alright, so sometimes you'll see it as a 4 by 3 matrix. Alright, so we've declared it, but we don't have anything in the array. So I'll show you the easy way, I guess. We've done this before, so array 1 equal. So I can use these squiggly brackets, but the way we do this with 2D arrays is we've got to create different sections within this squiggly. Alright, so for instance, I'm just going to lay it all out for you. Alright, so we had 4 rows, right? So that means I need 4 separate squigglies. And then we have 3 columns, so I'm going to want 3 data points inside each of these squigglies. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm just going to do, random numbers. Just, well, kind of random, I guess. I'm going to make them count up to wherever we stop, so 7, 8, 9, and then that way we can keep track of our points too, and it'll make things easier. Alright, so it's upset with me. You actually cannot do what I just tried to do. So what we need to do is, instead of declaring it here, we would delete this whole part and have it like that. Okay. Okay, so I have my array and I've stored points into it. So I know that it's 4 rows by 3 rows. Alright, and the way it knows that is it sees here, there's a row, there's a row, there's a row, and there's a row. Alright, and I have 3 in each column, or 3 in each row. Wow, this gets confusing. Okay, I have 4 rows, and inside of each row I have 3 points, which will then give us 3 columns. Alright, so to show you what we can do with a 2D array, I know in like math class you can do multiplication with matrices. So we could say like array 1 at point, I guess 0, 1. Yeah, let's do 0, 1. Times array 1 at point, I don't know, 2, 2. And I just picked something, I didn't look. So if I look up here, 0 is here, and then the first element would be 0, so this would be 1. So this value here would actually be 2. Alright, and then we look at array 1 at 2, 2, so we have 0, 1, 2 right here, and then the second value would be 9. So 2 times 9 is 18. So let's check that we did this correctly. We should be expecting to get 18 out of this. So I'm just going to print out the variable multiplication and see if we get 18. So when I run it, right, and I have it minimized, I get 18, okay? So I can see that I can do 2D matrices or 2D arrays. I can do multiplication between each cell. So real quickly, let me show you how to print a 2D array. Alright, printing 2D arrays is really tough because you have to print rows and columns. So that means you're going to need a nested for loop. Alright, so I'm going to set up the first for loop, and the first for loop is going to represent our rows. Alright, so our rows start at 0 and they go to 3, right? Because we have 4 rows. So r equals 0 as long as r is less than array1.length, because that's the name of our array, and we're going to increase r every time. Alright, so just like we do a normal array or a normal loop for an array to print it out, we're just printing each of the elements. Alright, but the issue now is we have rows and columns. So to get to the columns, we have to do a nested loop, another nested for loop inside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this and call this outer loop for rows. Alright. So that means that this loop I'm about to create now is our inner loop for columns. So for each row we have the 4 rows, we want to print each cell inside. So that'll be the columns. Alright, so we want to go from C equals 0 to C is less than array 1, but we're actually going to do it at that column, or at that row and the length of that row. Alright, and then we're going to increase C. I never declared what C is. It's an integer also. Alright, so that'll take care of our columns, and this will take care of our rows. Alright, so now we just need to add our print statement. So system.out.print, and I want to print array1 at R and C, right? That was the whole point, rows and columns. Alright, and just so that after each row finishes, I'm going to add a print statement here so it returns to the next one, so it actually looks like a matrices. Alright, so I'm going to run this. Okay, so I'm still getting the 18 from this where we printed multiplication out, so I'm going to comment that out. Alright, and now we run again, and you see I get 1, 2, 3 in the first row, 4, 5, 6 in the second, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12. Alright, so this matrice actually prints out exactly how I wanted. I wanted to make it a little smoother. I could add a space there after each print of the element, so that way they're a little more spread out so we can see them. Alright, so we created an array that had 4 rows, 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows, and then 3 cells in each row, which would make columns. Alright, so, and you can now see it printed out here if you need to visualize that. Alright, so that's just a little bit about 2D arrays and how you would declare them and print them. We're going to be working with these more in class until we reach the point that we're going to make our own tic-tac-toe game. Alright, please email me with any questions.